The world of professional wrestling lost one of the all-time greatest. The man with so much charisma. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, who was born in 1945. He died on this day, June the 11th, in 2015. The son of a plumber, the man that experienced hard times, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. He's the man that wined and dined with kings and queens. He also slept in alleys and ate cold pork and beans. Dusty Rhodes, in that picture, the American Dream. But he wasn't a chiseled, full of abs type of guy. He was the common man, as we see the second picture. This 280-pound former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Rest in peace, Dream. Rest in peace, Virgil Runnels, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Wrestling action, 11 o'clock Saturday.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hill and special guests.
It's a June 11th edition, and it's a packed, expect the unexpected. Man, we're loaded to bear, and Richard Hood's in the house. Shane Odom, who suggested these series of shows, the favorite memories of Memphis wrestling. David Linville, Greg Wayne, Randy Dandy, Randy West, and there's so many people I'm running out of room on this sucker, but we appreciate Thomas being here. We appreciate everybody being here on the most packed show we've ever had. We'll see. NWA World Heavyweight Champion Harley Race in 1977 defend the championship against Jerry the King Lawler. 60 minutes, and that will be loaded. We will also see the Moondogs, Kenny Missouri, concession stand brawl with Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Lawler. We will see a great American Bash after show with a combination show, and I'll tell that whole story with Jim Crockett Promotions running a show in Memphis with Jarrett Promotions and a six-man tag team, Dusty Rhodes, on the 9th anniversary of his death. He will be teaming with Magnum TA and the King, Jerry Lawler, in a bunkhouse match against Ole Anderson, Arn Anderson, and Tully Blanchard. There is more, I promise you, all kinds of stuff I'll show you throughout the show. So many people, Andrew Calvin Jr., Ahmad is in the house, Carlton's in the house, bunch of people. Show wouldn't be right without Randy West being here, and he's here as well. Want to get right to it since we're packed as we can be packed. Pat Cranwell, you're the first one and only one from the panel in right now. You are in, you are home, you are in Birmingham. I'm so dang excited. And as we dedicate this show to the memory of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, welcome to the show, Pat Cranwell.
Well, Randy, thank you. And it's so good to be with everybody. I think I asked you earlier if I missed last week because I've been in and out so much, but thankfully I'm going to be home and on the show from the foreseeable future. And yeah, today is I do want us to celebrate Dusty. I love Memphis wrestling, but I, as you all know, I grew up a lot of my teenage years with Georgia Championship and early WCW, and I told you today, Randy, I was sitting at my desk at work when the news popped up that Dusty had passed away, and I think we all knew he had been, had some health issues, and it,
Yes,
it was
sir.
obvious and fairly sad. But there are times in your life that we all have to go through if we live long enough. Losing your parents, graduating high school maybe, but when you kind of turn a page, and I'll tell you, this day in 2015, when Dusty died, and I found out about it on that afternoon, it really turned a page for me because a part of my childhood just and teenage years went away. But anyway, glad we get to celebrate him. He's one of those guys that we will never ever forget, like a lot of our Memphis heroes and legends.
Again, we are dedicating this show to the memory of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, Virgil Runnels, that passed away on this day 9 years ago in 2015. Thanks for that first take. Now, here's Michael St. John. This is a loaded show, and we'll get right to Michael in his first take. Hey, Mike.
Hey, buddy, how you doing? How's everybody going? Hello, Pat. Good talking to you earlier today. It's hard to, it's hard to think of professional wrestling as it is today without thinking of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, the Plymouth Thun from Houston, Texas, and for what he meant to the business, not only inside the ring rather, but outside the ring. But in his passing, I think what happened, and it is certainly both true for Cody Rhodes, it allowed his sons, his offspring, to really develop, to really, bring on their personalities and bring the wrestling world a new day of the Dusty Rhodes era. So, while we are very sad, almost now 10 years ago from the passing of Dusty Rhodes, it's also something to be very excited and happy about because the legacy he left is something that is almost unmatched in professional wrestling or any sport, sort of like the Babe Ruth of baseball when he passed, or Lou Gehrig even, or when we lost some of the greats in pro football, the death of Coach Bryant. It's that kind of thing, but at the same time, the legacy lives on and is certainly inspired both of his sons, certainly Cody Rhodes on the top of his game as well. So I think we've got a lot to be thankful for because the Rhodes mystique, the Rhodes image is still with us.
All right. We have so much stuff to do, and we'll talk and see from Dusty if time permits. Hopefully, we can show a match of Dusty later on from the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee. I already mentioned that match, a bunkhouse match, Ole Anderson, Arn Anderson, and Tully Blanchard against Jerry Lawler, Magnum T.A., and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Real quick, we'll start with you, Pat, because we will feature NWA World Championship match, and for the first time ever, I'm taking a chance on this because I know my audience. People are the fast forward society. I knew my audience will sit here in awe of the match we will show from 1977. Harley Race, Jerry Lawler. First time Lawler had wrestled Harley Race. I want to watch the entire thing again and fast forward. Remote control society. We don't have attention span. This is the way wrestling should be. Real quick, when I became a wrestling fan, Dory Funk Jr. was the world champion. He lost that title to Harley Race, who lost the title to Jack Briscoe. The first world champion I remember is Dory Funk Jr. Who is your first world champion that you remember in your lifetime, Pat?
My first I remember in my lifetime was Jack Briscoe, but I certainly saw Dory a lot as they chased the belt around a good bit. But yeah, that I have not. I don't know if any of our any of our friends have seen this match, but I've not seen it, Lawler and Race, and I've been thinking about it a lot, and I really think this is going to be, some wrestlers are just made to wrestle each other. Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair, Bill Dundee and Lawler. You know, the list goes on and on. But these two, their styles are so complementary. I'm excited to see it.
Very good. Michael, want to get you in right before we start this match. And let me tell everybody, man, this is going to be a classic show today. Call a friend, call a neighbor, tell them we have a packed show. Now, Michael, you're a couple of months ahead of me and Pat. So first NWA World Champion of your life.
Montel, I'm a lot older than both of you guys.
Being nice.
But thanks for the compliment. My first champion I ever saw was on TV, believe it or not, in black and white, was Buddy Rogers. And after that, I saw Pat O'Connor, got to know Pat when I was working in St. Louis in his latter years. But the one I remember and the one that made the biggest impression of me was Luthez. And it just so happened that my father was Hungarian. Luthez was Hungarian. And when I finally got to meet Lou and got to call a match during his latter years in Nashville, what a nice guy. But what an ultimate wrestler. You talk about wrestling. This is wrestling. When you talk about Luthez, Pat O'Connor, you talk about Buddy Rogers, Whipper Billy Watson, you're talking about the catch-as-catch-can style of wrestling where they lock into a hold and hold it for 20 minutes. You ain't got that today.
That's for sure. But we got it today right here on Talking Memphis Wrestling. Real quick, folks, this is a classic NWA World Championship match. Lawler, Harley Race for the very first time. This was on December the 11th on a Sunday, Mid-South Coliseum, Memphis, Tennessee, one fall, 60-minute time limit. Now, our microphones, guys, because we've never done this before, this is a risk to do, but I am hoping that we're educating Team Hills and anybody else that might watch this show into the classic World Championship matches. So is it worth the gamble, Pat and Michael, to go ahead and try to watch this 60-minute match?
Ring the bell.
You got it. Ring the bell. All I got is a rim shot. I'm ready.
All right, roll it. Well, people don't understand Michael because he was so great as a host of a wrestling show and a play-by-play guy. But what a fantastic
the NWA World
ring announcer he is.
Championship title match.
Absolutely.
The challenger, Jerry the King Lawler on the left. A 27-year-old Southern heavyweight champion weighing in at 231 pounds for this title challenge. Shaking hands with a man
back
on the right,
PJ,
who is the king of the hill.
In every wrestling city
Harley
in America, police
the NWA World Heavyweight
escorted
Champion. Your referee is Tommy Marlin.
heels through the dressing room. This is not what you get watching modern wrestling today. Speak on the classic styles, Michael, and then Pat, you add to that the classic styles of NWA World Championship matches. And explain, Michael, how this is different than a normal Jerry Lawler match as he's there with the the headlock on the mat.
Well, exactly. Now, anytime a world champion back in the day came into the territory, the champion was showcased. But the work was the champion was supposed to make the lead baby face, or in some cases the lead heel if he was the big money draw in the territory, to get him over. And to bring it to where it looked like all during the match at any time that the champion would drop the belt. And as you start out in this match, if you notice right away, it's not the champion that is taking over and getting the emotion going early. It's always the opponent. And I think we're seeing that. That's part of the philosophy and the psychology between the Harley race of the world and the world champions coming into the area. But the idea is it's going to go Broadway. The majority of these matches ended up either with a DQ or going Broadway, 60-minute time limit. So you had to wear off some time. You can't go for 60 minutes in a professional wrestling ring, even today. That's why matches are much, much shorter. You got more action, but much, much shorter. So you get psychology of, grabbing a headlock or getting a step over toe hold or a hammer lock or a arm bar and working a side of the body to get an advantage. And so it's a throwback, and what you see tonight, what you're seeing is the throwback to what championship wrestling matches were all about.
He has won the championship, defeated a Funk. First,
Pat,
in the first
you elaborate
time that he won and held the
to
World
Michael's
Heavyweight
comment.
Championship, he defeated Dory Funk Jr.
Well, I mean,
in Kansas City.
that's absolutely right. On these things, it's a slow build for the fans. As we see here, Lawler getting the upper hand early. Harley was great at selling this part of the match. Frank, Randy, you could probably speak to Frank's assumption here that Ray's probably would call the match. Is that right? And thank you, Deacon Terry, for about the sound.
Yes, Harley was definitely, and this is not a Lawler type of match. That shows Lawler's talent, just like the Ric Flair. Lawler can work any style, and I just want to give some information that Harley Race was born on April the 11th, 1943, passed away on August the 1st of 2019 at 76 years old. His debut was in 1969 and he retired in December of 1990. He is a former NWA World Champion, held it 7 different times, won the AWA Tag Team Championship with Larry the Axe Henning, Kurt Henning's dad, in 1965. In 1973, Race defeated Dory Funk Jr. to win the NWA World title. Then, shortly thereafter, lost to Jack Briscoe. Then, he defeated Terry Funk in 1977 to become the world champion. The matches with Harley Race, not the personality, because Nick Bockwinkel was more, my favorite world champion, but he was more flamboyant. But Michael, would you compare the styles and say that work-wise, Harley and Nick were similar?
They were very, very similar and coming from similar backgrounds. And in fact, Bockwinkel started out with Harley and Henning when they were over the Kansas City territory. But, their similarities are also their differences. I always thought that one of the things Sam Munchnick, when I had lunch with him, said he had to have a champion that can live with the camera, meaning that, all the cameras, he never met a camera he didn't like or a microphone he didn't like. So if you look at the history of the professional wrestling champions in the NWA, they were all very, very similar. They could all talk a hell of a promo, and they could all work and sell. And I think the difference between Bockwinkel and Race, I always thought Harley was a much better technician when he'd lock into a hole or when he'd get something going, but he worked much slower. Nick Bockwinkel worked quicker, but he and sold. I thought he sold better, but I always thought that there was more charisma with Bockwinkel, but there was more technical knowledge and technical performance with Harley. Harley is my favorite champion of all time, and it's because of what he did in the ring. He made a hell of a promo. I mean, he was a great interview, super nice guy, outside the ring, stole the business, lived the business, didn't do anything to harm the business. So Harley had it all going. I just think Bockwinkel had more charisma.
Al Tuttle is in the house, PJ in the house, Frank Seaton is here, Dave Channel is around, Thomas is here. As this is a can't miss show, everybody. Ahmad Rashad is in the house. So is Richard and Jeremy and BC Collins. I said Al Tuttle, Randy Danny, Randy West, Dave Channel is here. Again, BC Collins, Carlton, Steve, Rob, Richard, Shane, David, Greg, Randy West again. I mean, we are loaded. Richard Hood, big show, folks. Again, this is different than any show we've ever seen. So, are these two guys, Michael and Pat, good enough? Here we are in 2024 to keep the fans' attention like the modern fan. What do you think the modern, I'll ask you that first. What do you think the modern fan would think of this match?
Well, from what I hear, and from what I know, from what I see, I would think they would think it was pretty boring. But I don't think they understand wrestling for what wrestling was invented going back to the Carney days as to what wrestling was all about. But Lawler's working. Both of these guys are working. I mean, they've been working basically one or two holes the whole time we've been watching it. But again, when you're battling the champion, the idea you want to sell to the crowd and to the people that are there is that the champion is the strongest. He's champion for a reason. You got to wear him down. You got to get an advantage somehow, somewhere, a leg, an arm, the head, somewhere where you have a chance to win the match. And I think it's all in the setup, and that's what this is.
Absolutely. Randy West says that Harley broke into the business as Happy Humphrey's manager, also his driver, and just his aide. Pat, your comment.
Well, one of the things that I noticed here is, and you know, I saw most of Harley, you know, probably from the mid-'80s on, but, you know, and he's always been a, you know, kind of thick-set, rough, tough guy, but he's, you know, and Lawler is at his athletic best here in this era, and Harley is too. I mean, he's really, you know, athletic and can move in this.
December the 11th, 1977, the opening match was an 8-man tag team match with Norvell Austin teaming with Jerry Bryant, Mr. Wrestling, and Robert Gibson against Ken Dillinger, Sonny King, Frankie Lane, and David Schultz, 8-man tag. The second match was for the Southern Tag Team Championship, the Samoans in a heel versus heel match against Will Hickerson and Dennis Condrey, and then in a Tri-State title match, Bill Dundee against Gorgeous George Jr. Then for the Southeast title, Big Red Reese against the Mongolian Stomper, and the main event was Harley Race, Jerry Lawler, this NWA World Championship match.
Randy, I've got a Memphis wrestling history question for you. To your knowledge, how many times did the NWA champion wrestle in Memphis?
Lawler wrestled Jack Briscoe for the world title 3 different times. Jack Briscoe defended against Ron Fuller 3 different times, so that's 6. Lawler wrestled Terry Funk twice, Harley Race twice, and Ric Flair twice. Also, back in the day before my friend, Gene Konitsky and Dory Funk Jr. And Michael, since you claim to be the older guy here, Gene Konitsky at Ellis Auditorium and Dory Funk Jr. both had world title defenses at Ellis Auditorium. Am I correct with that?
Yes, you are, and both of them were in the territory. So Nick had him. Nick would bring him in for a week, and then he would spotlight him in every town. And back in the 60s and 70s, the world champion was guaranteed into the Memphis, Nashville, Mid-South territory at least for a week every year. So you got to see Luthez, you got to see Kaniski, you got to see Dory Funk Jr. You know, Harley Race dropped the title to Funk because he was tired of making the shots on the road. And again, when Sam Munchnick had the NWA included shots in New Zealand, shots in Australia, shots in Mexico, shots in England, shots in Japan, and of course the United States. So whoever was going to be a champion was going to be a road warrior without a doubt. And when I say road warrior, the champion was never at his home, and of course Harley at the time lived in Kansas City, so he would be in the road on the road or away from home probably around 300 days a week or a year. Also, for a note, I noticed that Randy had the information about Happy Humphrey. That's how he got into the business. But he was trained by Stanislaus Zabisco and Stan Stasiak's dad.
You know, I heard Harley on an interview one time say that he wrestled in Tokyo and Chicago within a 24-hour period one time.
That's true.
Publicly and privately, and there's a 2 count on Lawler.
One of the things that Frank asked was how big the crowd was. It was 10,800 people, and Michael and I are going to have a different opinion here about the length of Harley Race's reign. Harley's first reign, when he defeated Dory Funk Jr., that was, the rumor is that the belt was going to go to Jack Briscoe all along. Harley just held the title of the month the first time.
That's right. He was an interim because Funk was tired of the road.
Because Dory Funk, Sam wanted the title to go to Jack Briscoe, but the Funk Sr. did not let that happen, so they didn't want Dory Sr. didn't want Dory Jr. to lose to another babyface. That's why they went with Harley Race. Then it was Terry Funk who ended up beating Jack Briscoe. Harley Race beat him. It was Terry Funk that wanted to go home, that wanted to go back to his wife. He was the one with the short run. Most of Harley's run, except for when he lost it to Tommy Rich and won it back in 2 days, that happened. But just wanted to clarify that, and I think I'm historically correct on that one.
You are, and I'd forgotten about that, the Funk intervention there. The other thing that they did, they started doing after, to give the boys some relief, they would do some quick turns where they would turn the belt for a week and give the champion a week to go home and then come back with a rematch next week or 3 days or 4 days later and flip the belt back. And that's what happened to Tommy Rich.
Comes out of that corner now.
If everybody could share this page, and if you're watching on Twitter or watching on YouTube, if you can share this, because this is a historic thing. And our business, as we always see, king of sport. And what you see today, and I'm curious of what wrestling fans would think. This is a wrestling match for the world title. So far, no cheating. How many times, Pat, have we seen a headlock in this match?
Once for the whole match.
And if you remember one time I got aggravated at Chris Ellis, who I love to death, who should join us shortly. He said he was going to try. Anyway, when they have a headlock, he one time called it a rest hold. And that always gets me fired up. It's a wrestling match. If you're a wrestler, Pat, if you're wrestling Michael, and you can get that headlock, you're going to hold that headlock as long as you can, right?
See, you think a headlock is you could think a headlock was a rest hold until you're in middle school and the right heel gets you in it in the schoolyard, which is what happened to me and everybody else.
Bingo.
There's nothing more painful than a headlock properly applied.
It's squeezed and squeezed.
Absolutely.
Michael, talk about referee Thomas Marlin, Eddie Marlin's younger brother, and talk about the commentary from LR.
Well, Lance Russell is in his element. He was meant to call championship matches, and he was ready for this one. Had done a lot of homework and really sells it. But if you notice, he's not over the top. He's not a screaming Tony Schiavone goof or anything like that. He's very, professional. It's like you're calling a 15-round boxing match. You don't get excited about every punch. And, I think Lance is at top of his game here. As for Tommy Marlin, I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars in checks I wrote to him. Not him personally, but when he was the tax assessor and tax collector in Sumner County, and I lived in Hendersonville and worked in Gallatin. And I love Tommy. I had a lot of chances to call matches. Nick Gulas would use Tommy and I'm sure Jerry did the same thing. And of course, that was his uncle-in-law, I guess you would say. But he would bring Tommy in, and Tommy would dress up like he looks like a boxing official in this match. But Tommy would dress the part, look the part, and act the part of a referee that doesn't get in the way. You're not going to see anything crazy with him. And he is the figure of authority, which is when the world championship is being contested, whether it's in wrestling or boxing or mixed martial arts. You want the referee to be top-notch, the top guy in his field, and to live the part of the authority. And that was Tommy Marlin, A to Z.
There's 40 minutes left, 20 minutes past, 40 minutes to go. NWA World Heavyweight Championship. This took place in 1977. 1977 on the 11th day of, as I'm trying to make sure that we have this right, it was the date of this 60-minute draw was December the 11th. The next week, we showed the end of the match last week, Harley Race and Lawler, 90-minute time limit draw, and that's when Jimmy Valiant came in and busted a bottle over Lawler's face.
Let me point out something about the match right now. So many times, and the fans were kayfabe back then, but you made the time announcements over the microphone not only to allow the crowd to know where you were in the match, but to allow the wrestlers and the referee to know where you were in the match. So if they were going 20 minutes and then going to have a finish and come home and do a 25-minute match or a 23-minute match, when you gave that time check, it was a cue for the wrestlers. And in the championship match, and this was interesting, at the 20-minute mark, it was obviously said, okay, you work me over for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to have a flourish. I'm going to have a comeback at the 20-minute mark. And as you see, that's what Harley is doing. He's, for the first time, being the aggressor in the match, 20 minutes in the match.
Last week, Pat, you made the suggestion, and I said I would try to look for the match. Your hopes were up because you've known for several days you've had the notes. Are you amazed what high-quality match? And certainly, this blows away any wrestling match you can see on modern wrestling. There's no comparison.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
As a 20-minute call, 40 minutes to wrestle in this World Championship. One fall, 60-minute time limit bout.
Can you imagine how blown up 80% of the wrestlers would be if they had to go an hour Broadway today?
I got one for you, Pat. Name me one that could.
I think Cody could. I think Seth Rollins could. I think Daniel Bryan could, but there's very few that could, Mike.
I see where you're coming from with Cody, and I think if the match is called a certain way, I think you're right. I don't know about Seth. Of course, he's injured now, but I think he's a good worker. I don't know if he could do it. I thought maybe Roman could do it. I don't know, though. We're getting to a point where I don't think any of the top baby faces or heels in either the NWA or, excuse me, the AEW or WWE right now, outside of Cody, could even come close to it.
For a headbutt, Lawler really caught him square in the face. Count of one. No, his feet are on the ropes.
Adam, our producer, made a good point backstage. This is shot very, very well with just one camera.
Yes, and this Randy didn't start in 1979, so this would have been shot, Michael, by Mike Shields, the late Mike Shields.
Well, he was good at the camera work too.
Randy Orton to do 60 minutes. Al Tuttle mentions that for sure.
Okay,
William says Memphis was an odd territory. I would like to know what he means about that. Also, BC Collins says Cody and AJ this weekend at the Premium Live event should be a great wrestling match as well. They wrestled a couple of pay-per-views ago. Now they've done a heated angle, so that should be good as well. There's no shortage of good wrestling. Real good wrestling, and every once in a while you see great matches like Roman and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, but you don't see the great pure wrestling matches that we're seeing here today. Nobody could do this type of match, Michael. Nobody.
I agree with you, and to be on the comment for Cody and AJ, I agree it's going to be a great match. But again, these are guys that were trained by guys that did this kind of stuff. And live by that. But I will tell you this: I'll make a proposition right now. I'll bet you that match on the pay-per-view doesn't go over 30 minutes.
I won't take that bet. I agree with you.
All right, now here's how they buy time in a 60-minute Broadway. Okay, that was edited just then.
Yes, I noticed that as well. So maybe we're not seeing the whole 60-minute thing, but this is listed as the video is 59 minutes and 45 seconds. 59:45. So how about this? As the match, the exhaustion from Harley, and that was a unique situation where he was hanging upside down, and you see that shot right there, and now he falls to the ring. It's just unique.
You know, I had the opportunity to call the 60-minute Broadway between George Goulas and Harley in the famous Daddy Says Sell match in Nashville. And I want to tell you that of all the matches George was ever in that I ever had a hand in being the announcer of, he never looked better. But to that point, Harley Race put him over like warm butter on a hot biscuit. I mean, that was an incredible job that Harley did. And I remember the chop, and Harley got a little frustrated during the match, and he got out of the ring quite a bit during that match. But it wasn't as much exhaustion as it was just being, having to work his hardest to put the opponent over.
And the people are still big time into this as Harley went for a suplex. This simple stuff. This is psychology and storytelling at the most. And we got great numbers. Share this page, everybody, because this is what I think is an education to great match. Absolutely. Just an education in great match. Thomas Marlin passed away 2 years before, 2 or 3 years before Eddie Marlin, his brother, passed away. Frank says, I'm surprised Race has not used most of his moves by this time in the match. Seems like he's gone to back. Gut reach, stealth hose, and other moves. They had Iowa, so I'm sure we'll get that.
It's coming.
Count of one, Race kicks out. Trying to clear his head. Side headlock. Race picks him up.
Wow.
You can see how tired they are. A grueling bout thus far.
It was, Al.
Jerry Lawler hanging on to that side headlock.
I'm sure Adam has not watched this match before and seen a lot of these style matches, and it's holding up. Our audience with a lot of comments today. It's just very, very good.
With his left shoulder down, with his right shoulder up. And Lawler grinds away. Referee Tommy Marlin checking closely.
It took place on December the 11th, the day before my 16th birthday. Michael, share your comment to our audience that you just shared with me and Pat now.
Well, if this is typical of a Broadway with Race, and I've only seen this once before, and it was right after it happened. But coming up after the 35-minute mark, you're going to start seeing a lot of gimmickry stalling, going to the floor, some controversy, some some trickery, some of the stuff that is going to give them some time to recuperate before they go into the finish. Because at the end, there's going to be several false finishes where the crowd will be throwing babies in the air thinking Lawler will win this match. But this is going to be an interesting how they're telling the story, and it's a novel. It's not a short story. It's not a poem. It's not a limerick. They're telling the story. This match is a novel. That's why it's going 60.
As you see the response from the people. Everybody's on the game today, Adam. And it's so easy for us to describe it, Michael, because this is a masterpiece. It's easy to describe masterpiece.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, we're about the 35-minute mark, and you're starting to see what I was referring to. And again, this is, there's controversy. There's time. It's time for the boys to catch their breath.
Puts him back into the ring. And the referee says, go at it. It's a tough call for the official. Because a wrestler can add a little jump and go over that top rope. And
this shows how good. I think sometimes we don't point out the referee's ability or lack of. And Thomas Marlin, he's just so suited for a world title match.
Amen. The other referee that Nick would use in these kind of matches over on the other side of the territory was Ronnie West, who lived in Chattanooga and later became the #1 referee on Georgia Championship Wrestling in the days.
A great referee as well. Appreciate the Jobber Chronicle for being with us today on the show from YouTube. Appreciate everybody on YouTube. We have several people. We appreciate it. I'm Randy Hill, this is Talking Memphis Wrestling. The panel with me is Pat Hamill and the great legendary broadcaster, the voice of the debut video of Hulk Hogan and the voice of the Kamala video. Great Michael John is with us because we have new people. This is to serve my mission of keeping the legacy of Memphis wrestling alive. So, folks, Pat, Michael, we're talking to new folks today. And I appreciate that very much.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll tell you one thing we see here too is they are so good at using the ring.
Using the ropes as he drops down
and when I say that, I mean they're and you rarely see a wrestler today using the ropes to get a break of a hold. But they use the entirety of the ring so well.
Great point.
Also, you got to realize, too, that at this point in the match, we're nearing the 40-minute mark. The crowd is starting to get a little antsy.
I feel like I've been watching 10 minutes.
It's a good point, Pat. I agree with you.
And that tells you it's a great match.
Hello, Doug Masters. Good to have you here from Portland. If you still live in Portland.
BC was saying that race on offense was so slow. He's absolutely right. That's how Harley worked. That was his style. And again, that goes back to who trained him. And Larry Zbyszko's dad and Stan Stasiak's dad.
And there it is, the abdominal stretch. Lawler trying to apply the heat.
Adam points out this is the first year of Jarrett promotion in less than a year. As a matter of fact, the TV show debuted on Channel 5 in April of '77, and this was December the 11th of 1977.
Randy, did Harley not come in, though, the first month that Jerry was at the Mid-South Coliseum? If I recall correctly, in April or May of this same year we're looking at, and I was still programming at WMPS, I think Harley came to town, but didn't he battle Rocky Johnson?
Absolutely. That was Lance Russell's first Monday night with It was after they left Cookham, the debut of Jarrett at the Mid-South Coliseum. And the main event was Harley Race and Rocky Johnson for the NWA World Title. The semifinal match was the #1 contendership with Lawler against Jack Briscoe. They went 2 Sundays in a row, and this was Sunday, December 11th, 1977.
Harley hanging on.
Frank says he's not bored at all by this match so far. Put a 5-minute match in WWE or AEW bores in 5 minutes. And I can't argue with that.
Perfect.
Additional boost to continue to apply the pressure.
This was it almost sold out anyway, but it would have done 8,000 more people if it would have been on Monday night. If there was some kind of event at the Coliseum or some kind of you have to get the world champion when you can get the world champion, right, Michael?
And I think that's what this was, Randy. I think it was a situation where Harley was available on a Sunday night to come to Memphis to put Lawler over and to pole vault Jerry Jarrett into his second year. Watch this. This is great. I love this right here. But anyway, that's part of it. And, that's one thing people didn't realize what was happening. Nick Goulas realized what was happening. Jerry Jarrett knew what was happening. But when Sam threw his loyalty out of the NWA office to Jerry right away, it was a seal of fate for the Goulas wrestling promotion, even though it was called Goulas Welch School. It was a seal of fate then, because it was like Sam saying to Nick, they'd been working together since 1948. It was like, you're over, I'm going with the new guy. And I think Eddie Graham had a lot to do with that, because Eddie had Sam's ear and Eddie loved Jerry Jarrett.
Right. There's about 23 minutes left, and I wanted to get this comment from David Smith. That was side, did Harley get over much when he visited Memphis in the Midwest? I think he got over due to his reputation. People really was a tough guy. Yes. The way you know if somebody got over is how much money he draws. And you see almost 11,000 people in this building at the Mid-South Coliseum, and then he did almost 11,000, 10-8 the very next week. So yes, he got over, Michael.
He was over big time. and drew money. He drew money in every territory he went to, and that's why he was in such demand.
And that's why he was a 7-time world champion, Pat.
Absolutely.
If the champion don't brawl, he won't be champion long. I guarantee.
Left hand from Race. Lawler with a big right hand. Oh! Whipped him to the rope. Caught him with a foot.
Richard Dulas left
Lawler
Memphis in April of 1977. First of the month, the split, and Nick tried to run on his own a few weeks, but it did not work.
He was using the Sheik and a lot of the Sheik's boys to try to compete against Jerry, but Jerry had the talent. FYI, if I can interject something here, and
sure.
Pat, you can understand this as well. You look at Ric Flair, the 16-time world heavyweight champion, and Harley Race, the 7-time world champion. What's the difference in styles? The difference is the flamboyancy of Flair. The pull for Flair was his good looks and how flamboyant and how arrogant and his promos. Flair is one of the best promos ever. The pull for Harley Race, the way he drew money, is exactly what our watchers, our listeners are saying. He was a tough guy, and the reputation was he's a tough guy. So when he came into town as the champion, and your boy or your talent was going up against him, if your talent could beat him or stay with him, it made proof that your talent was championship caliber level. And that way, Harley Race sold it more on that line, whereas Ric Flair sold it on the flamboyancy and I'll tell you, if you look at the audience here, yeah, the women are there, but the women are there for Jerry Lawler. The men are there for Harley Race. In Ric Flair's case, the women were there for Ric Flair.
You know, I was thinking, Michael, 3 minutes before you said that, I was thinking about Flair and Lawler having a match, and, you know, Ole Anderson was famous for saying that Ric Flair wrestled the same GD match for 30 years, and there's a lot to be said, that there's a lot of truth in that, but Harley Race could have and he and Lawler, this has exceeded every expectation I had. I think it shines Lawler in just something he is underrated as a technical wrestler. But you know, Harley Race could have a championship match with a chair, and Flair could not do that.
That's a good point, Pat. Also, again, we're in a headlock. We're 40 minutes into the match, and the predominant hole in this match has been the headlock.
And I'm sitting on the side, on the edge of my chair. 77, 23, 24, 47 years later, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat.
Again, folks, did you notice they made the time announcement, 20 minutes to wrestle, 40 minutes gone, 20 minutes to wrestle, and all of a sudden there's a flurry by Lawler, and here's going to start some false finishes. Now you're going to get into the real meat of the match, and this is really going to get good. Not that it's already really good.
And Race for the 3rd time tonight catches Lawler right in the midsection with a headbutt. And down among our broadcasting cables, Lawler lays on a concrete floor. Race rolling to the ring apron. Drops with a knee on Lawler.
Notice no ring skirt.
Tommy Marlin saying, get him in
No,
the ring,
sir.
get him in the ring.
John Ed Ring, the bell timer, Mr. Guy Coffey, the NWA representative.
Lawler reversed it and slammed Race's head into this huge metal bell. On the end of the table, our timer's bell. Referee Tommy Marlin trying to get Lawler to
You
get
can
in the
hear
ring.
the crowd cheering and chanting and encouraging from the background. The 10,000 plus people, 10,800 people are emotionally invested in this match Pat, just like you are all these years later.
Absolutely.
Crawling almost up those steps.
You know, it's amazing. Even though you know what it's going to end up being, it's so much. It's still. It's such a novel, if you would. I keep using that word. It's such a match that you watch it and you see things now, or I'm seeing things now that I forgot about or didn't realize from the first time I saw it. Look at Harley selling.
It's just amazing. Just a whole lot of this you will never see in modern wrestling today because they think it's a stunt. They think you have to give the people, which is basically unbelievable stuff. Tell me, I dare either one of my panel, Pat Trammell or Michael St. John, tell me one thing you've seen in this match that's not logical.
It's all logical. They're writing the story.
He comes up fighting.
Absolutely.
That's what a champion is all about.
You know, the other thing today, how many times have you seen the wrestlers get up on the rope or leave their feet or do a back body drop or even come up with a sunset flip or anything like that? That's still to come, but those are high spots. Those are things that people go, wow, when it happens. In this day and time, if one of these wrestlers, so-called wrestlers in either company, isn't coming off the top rope in the first 5 minutes, nobody thinks it's a good match.
The next title change as the last one
a pet peeve is one watching the other do his move. There's none of that here.
Yeah,
not at all.
And I have a suggestion. Your second son, Daquan, who is a big WWE current fan, I want you to send him a copy of this show to get it on YouTube and tell him he has to watch this.
Yeah, I am.
Half a second. That's all. Half a second. The difference between a new champion and the old one.
There's your first false finish, and it's coming at 45 minutes into the match.
But he is in
bad
shape. Punch Lawler in the stomach. Throws him out of the
When
ring.
Harley went into the bell, did he get juiced? I missed that part.
Those cobwebs up. Lawler laying down.
Say that again, Adam. I mean, Michael.
When Harley was slammed into the bell on the table, did he get juice? I don't think he did.
I don't think so either.
Going on the floor after him. These two guys
Harley got the juice in the match against George, which people went nuts.
Lawler takes one and gives one.
Look at that, a body slam on the floor, and it looked like a body slam on the floor, not a body slam on some high school wrestling mat.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Michael. And William says, I think modern wrestlers go to clown college to learn to wrestle in about 3 weeks. What's so great about this, and you mentioned the ring mat not there, or the ring skirt not there, and then there's not a mat on the floor where it's just concrete. And I think it makes it amazing and makes the mood of the match so important.
That's Harley's first cheat move the whole wrestling match.
And we're probably, 47 minutes in?
Yes, 47 minutes in. Listen to the crowd. The crowd now senses that Lawler's going to win this belt.
Right now, as you're talking about the psychology, how they started, now the big bump over the top rope. And I like Tommy Marlin here, the referee, that he's all over that. All over. Asking him if he intentionally threw him over the top rope. This is just classic wrestling.
Simply whipped Harley in with the Irish whip. Harley.
I love how Lance is explaining this too.
Yes, absolutely.
Over the rope, the referee agreed with it.
That's the last time you heard an announcer describe an Irish whip.
Harley Race got back in the ring. With a suplex.
The last time Irish Mike Clancy was in the ring.
Race down.
I don't know about you guys. I'm loving this. I am absolutely loving this.
Oh,
When you saw the format and we were going to devote hours to this match, what was your reaction? Did you think we would lose the audience, or did you have confidence that this would be one of our most successful shows yet?
Here was my thought. I thought, what a great change of pace. This is like a fastball pitcher throwing a 60-mile-an-hour ball. I loved it, but I don't think it's something you can do, or we could do, or any show could do week in and week out. But once a year to do something like this and showcase and feature the best of the best, unbelievable. Great formatting.
Lawler gets up, picks him up right off the top rope and throws him down into the ring.
Lawler selling his ribs.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't preview this, but a little bit of it. This is just tremendous. And I was in attendance for this match. First match at the Coliseum I ever attended. I went to this card.
Wow.
That's cool.
The huge crowd in the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum.
You know, I think of some of the great stories on Harley watching this thing, because he was a character too. And it was really, I can remember when he came to Nashville for that defense of the title, the entire locker room wanted to meet him and talk to him, both heels and babyface. He was so much over, not only with the fans, but with the boys as well.
Steps over with a toe hold.
Great point.
I love this.
Yes,
Look
sir.
at Race sell this.
Has his leg bent straight back. Watch it.
Oh, what a great
thing. Race will not give up.
Pat, have you ever seen a Jerry Lawler match like this in your life?
I never have, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't know you had it in him.
He's great.
Right straight across Harley.
But I agree with you, Randy. I think in all, just about all of Harley's matches, he calls the match, and it's up to the boys or his opponent to do what he says to do. And this is incredible, because now we're going to get another, again, a false finish to where the crowds are going to be ready to explode, thinking that Lawler's going to get the belt in just a few seconds here.
Has passed. 10 minutes to wrestle.
10 minutes to go in this match for the NWA World Championship. As you see Lawler there yelling to Lance at how much time's left. And Lance
system has gone out.
Yells at
Lawler.
Again, the use of the time cues. There you go. The use of the time cues. Now watch what happens with the boys. It puts another. They put it in another gear.
Pin-wise, and that's what he wants. He's come too far tonight.
Brother Terry, you're exactly right.
The face with that foot.
The face is you're right. The face makes it.
Referee grabs both hands and says, "You're not going to beat on him." But Lawler does. Two right hands.
That's normally a babyface move.
Yep. Sunset an inverted sunset flip.
There hadn't been a lot of healing done in this match.
Two, Lawler thought he might have had
True.
him. Nope. Harley takes him
Another
down.
Small
babyface
package.
move.
One,
Small package.
two. Kicks his way free.
Lawler throws as good of a right hand as any wrestler in the history of the business.
I agree, 100%.
Lawler going for the sleeper hold. He rarely uses his hold. He figures maybe that this is a good time, since Race is as he is, very tired.
Jobber Chronicle, I agree with you. Lawler is going to get desperate, it looks like, to put Harley Race away.
Jerry Lawler holding on with about 7 minutes to go, but Harley Race is also holding on. Lawler Lawler does not have a good position on him. He tightens it up better. He's
How good is the commentary here, Pat?
Race is sagging.
Not being a star of it, but describing it perfectly. Not taking it over, not making it about him.
And there goes Lawler.
Michael, do you agree that a blind person with the commentary from Lance Russell would enjoy this big time?
100%. The other thing I really like about this championship match, and I was honored to have called a match on my own for 60 minutes with Harley in Nashville, is that it is a single commentator. And I think a second voice in this kind of match takes away from what is happening in the match. And if you notice, Lance isn't talking all the time. He's just talking when he needs to. And I think that makes the commentary even better.
I wish the mass idiot on AEW would learn that. Great.
Lawler slips in behind for the sleeper hold.
Adam, I got that in.
Looks like his positioning may be better this time.
Adam and I are on the same page on that one.
He rolls it off and takes the pressure off the side of that neck. Rips his head and shakes him off the sleeper. Lawler goes after it again. He's been unable.
Now we've got about 5 minutes left in the match, and at some point Harley Race is just going to do something cheap, and people are going to pop.
Asleep where he'll have it with no problem.
I'm excited to see this last about 6
applying
minutes.
the pressure
Oh, no,
to
it
the
might be
right side of the
5
neck. That's where all the pressure is on that point. Referee Tommy Marlin checking him.
Long-time wrestling fan Miss Myers, you hear her screaming, Gary! Adam just mentioned the lady. That was Miss Myers, attended every week with her husband, that right behind the announcer table, behind Lance.
Once again, I think this is the 4th or 5th time.
Well said, Al.
That Race has used the ropes to break a count. Lawler sagged when he saw that. He has done everything he can to the champion. And the wily champion has avoided that 3 count all the way again.
Hey guys, I sometimes think if our private chat we do during these matches, I think we could charge a hell of a fee if they could really read what some of us write in these private chats, Michael.
There's no question about it.
Keep it kayfabe, okay?
I guess.
We'd like to see Lawler, the world heavyweight champion. Harley Race's legs were well over the ropes. Race comes from behind, rolls him in, comes back into a jackknife. Nope. Lawler now is over the ropes.
The referee is doing a fantastic.
Only 4 minutes in time.
Eddie is the best, or rather Tommy Marlin was the best when it came to these matches.
Continuing to battle, even though it must have.
I wonder what he got paid for it.
He found out he had not won the championship.
Less than $500.
Tommy Marlin had counted, and just as he went up in the air, he saw the legs, and his legs were well over the ropes, not just barely. I think our videotape will clearly show that Race was outside the ropes throughout the entire count. Lawler falls back. Race misses the elbow. Count of 1. Nope. 3 minutes. Referee notifying Lawler and Race that 3 minutes remain. Look at Lawler. Renewed by that.
Again, the time check.
Race catches him, zinging left
Changing
hand.
the match.
Takes a right from Lawler. Neither one of them has near the sting in the punches that they had earlier. Lawler coming off, he was going to hit him with a broad arm and put him up in the 42nd row, but Ray simply ducked over, and Lawler went straight over his back. Lawler shakes him at the count of 2. Neither wrestler. Only 2 minutes. Lawler spurred every time the time is called out. The spirit's willing, but whether the body's got enough, he may hear. 1, 2. Nope. Harley Race shakes the jackknife. Count of 1, 2, and Race once again uses the ropes. Lawler throws his feet back inside. Race takes another one from Lawler. And Race kicks out this time.
First time we've seen the ropes. Him go up on the ropes, or anybody go up on the ropes in this match.
This could be his last chance. 1, 2. And up comes Harley Race's left shoulder. The crowd really wanting severely.
A lot of other great action coming up on Talking Memphis Wrestling. We're just a little over an hour in.
Close. With 1 minute to go. These men have been at it.
There's your belly to back.
Solid hour. Unbelievable. Just like this. Unless Lawler gets him here, he has no chance. 1, 2, and Race kicks. 30 seconds to go. They are just drained, both men. Lawler goes with the elbow. He picked Race up. I'm surprised he even got him in the air. Lawler going to put it all in one basket. Jumps at Harley Race. Count of 1, 2, no. And that's it. The 60-minute time limit has run out, and the bout will be a draw. 60 minutes to a draw. Harley Race retains his World Heavyweight Championship.
We'll go with you, Pat.
I don't really know what to say. It felt like that's been 10 minutes, and that tells you what a great, great match that was. My favorite match of all time was Harley and Jack Briscoe, and I think I like this one better.
So you're glad, certainly I would guess you're glad that we aired this match, right?
Heck, we got another hour. Run it back. Let's do it again. Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. Thank you for that.
Michael?
Did you see any missed holes or flubs? And if there was, they were covered up so well that, you watch a match today, and I don't care if it's New York or if it's Jacksonville. You watch a match today, and somewhere, especially anything that's over 5 minutes, somebody is going to screw something up. I didn't see either wrestler screw up anything in that match.
And I saw nothing telegraphed.
Nothing telegraphed. Nothing. There was one spot when Harley thought the ropes were closer to where he was, and he had to take a step back to take that bump over the rope early on, I think at about the 20-minute mark. But other than that, I don't think there was one missed anything in that match.
It was amazing. Absolutely. Harley Race and Jerry Lawler. Now, I am going to go back, and as we always do, we teach history, and we teach history about Memphis wrestling. It was 1985. It was later in the year, and we're going to look. It was approaching the end of summer, actually, and into September. And so we were at Cumberland Place, Jerry Jarrett's home and office, and I was in the office, and Randy West and Jerry Jarrett and Eddie Marlin and Thomas Marlin and several other people were out on the farm doing duck hunting back there. And Michael had lived in that neighborhood, and he might have been out there with them shooting ducks. Anyway, I was in the office and the phone rang. And it was a phone call from Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling's Jim Crockett. And he wanted to talk to Jerry Jarrett. And I said, he's in a meeting right now. Then he told me who he was. And I said, well, I will get a hold of him, because I didn't want to tell him I was going to walk out into cow pasture and find Jerry Jarrett. I didn't want to do that. That got heat on me. But anyway, so he hung up. And so Mr. Crockett didn't tell me what he wanted, but he said it was important. And so I walk out there, got Jerry. Jerry came in, called Jim Crockett, and Jim Crockett, who was on TBS and was doing Great American Bashes. And so he pitched an idea to Jerry Jarrett to do a co-promotion. And this co-promotion started in September the 30th of 1985. It was a Great American Bash. And I want to read you this card. Billy Travis, Tojo Yamamoto, and Tommy Wright against Ron Sexton, Ken Timms, and Buddy Wayne. The second match was for the Mid-America title. Coco Ware defeated Tom Pritchard. The third match was Jim Crockett Promotions' Ron Bass against Taurus Bubba. The fourth match for the international title, it was Mongolian Stomper defeating Big Phil Hickerson. The fifth match of the night was the Sheepherders against Bill Superstar Dundee and Handsome Jimmy Valiant. And Bill was coming in from Bill Watts Mid-South Wrestling for that. The sixth match on the card was for the U.S. title with Tully Blanchard against Magnum T.A. Terry Allen. Nature Boy Buddy Landell against Pez Watley. The eighth match, listen to this one, folks. The fabulous one, Stan Lane and Steve Kern against Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy, the fabulous Freebirds. The next match was the Rock and Roll Express in an NWA World Championship match against the Koloffs. And then the main event of the night is that Jerry Lawler was disqualified in 28 minutes and 45 seconds, a world title match. It drew 9,500 people and a record gate of 100,000 people. So real quick, it all started with a phone call in that office and this Great American Bash, and they ended up doing the Great American Bash in Memphis, then in Lexington, Kentucky, then coming back in November, and we'll talk about that and see a match in a minute. They came back and did it again. Real quick, on that card, what do you think, Pat? Then we'll go with Michael as soon as you pause.
I think that's a great card. Was that old Mr. Crockett or Jim Jr.?
Jim Jr.
Okay.
Mr. Crockett died in 73, I think.
Okay.
Michael?
I didn't know that he had taken the Great American Bash on a road trip. And you know, to hear that card, that's a pretty loaded talent card. How many boys are on that card? 20?
I bet more than that. Talk some more and I'll count them.
Okay. Well, the talent level was incredible. I worked with Terry Allen early on and never realized that Terry Allen was TA until about 3 or 4 months ago. Was Magnum TA. But again, you know, you got Tully on that card. You got a championship match on that card. Now, the championship match, was that Lawler and Race again, or was that Lawler Flair?
Lawler, Ric Flair, their first,
that was Flair. Okay.
First match ever against each other.
I remember that. And that was the first time that I think Ric Flair ever appeared on Memphis TV, wasn't it? The Saturday before that match?
No, as a matter of fact, here's the story on that. This was in 85. In 82, Lawler wrestled to a draw, Ric Flair. They were setting up a show a week or a month later, maybe, with Flair and Lawler. apparently Flair didn't like his experience in Memphis. He never came back for 3 years.
I'd heard the rumor was going around that Flair didn't have any women in Memphis, so that Memphis wasn't one of his favorite towns because he didn't have any women there.
That's funny, and that's probably the case. Then
I think that's probably true.
Oh yeah, I'm not doubting it. Then they came back November the 18th, 1985. Now the World Championship match, as Ric Flair was born in Memphis, by the way. Anyway, he was adopted out of Memphis, as a matter of fact. So let's jump ahead to
stop for a second. Can I call timeout here?
Yes.
So Flair was born to his natural mother in Memphis and then adopted out. That could be the reason he never liked Memphis.
That could be, for sure. Adam says, and I don't know what this means, that Michael, you might can help me. He says he was one of those Georgia Tanner adoption babies. You know
wasn't
what
that means? Pat, help me out here, but wasn't that a company that handled adoptions back in the day?
Yeah, it was basically kind of an adoption mill, and it was really not, not remembered fondly.
It was a thing where you surrendered your baby, and they didn't. It was an anonymous thing, and they didn't keep track of who the mom or any of that kind of stuff was.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah,
yes.
That's right.
I think now that we say that, it absolutely is. So this was in September. In November the 18th, they're doing it again, and this is a combination thing. This did not. The first card drew $100,000. The second card drew $40,000. Still a great house. The opening match was for the International Heavyweight Championship. Phil Hickerson against Dutch Mantel. Tojo Yamamoto and Bubba in a tag team match with Rip Morgan, one of the people on the card. The Fantastics against Tom Pritchard and our friend of the show, Randy Rose. Handsome Jimmy Valiant against Tony Falk. The Fabulous Ones against the Midnight Express. A cage match with the Koloffs and the Rock and Roll Express. And the main event scheduled and advertised was Coco Ware, or let me go back. The main event was the Southern Heavyweight Champion. They always did that. The number one contender out of the territory was that Southern Champion. Bill Dundee was the champion. However, that Saturday on television, because Bill was a heel, and he thought it was best not to challenge the world champion. So he put his title shot on the line on television against Coco. Coco won the title. Now, they never told Jim Crockett Promotions or Ric Flair this. When Flair got to the airport and got in a taxi cab, the taxi says, "Hey, Coco Ware is going to beat you for that world title today." And Flair said, "Coco Ware, who is he?" Plus the fact I'm wrestling Bill Dundee. They never told Flair. They changed the card. It was going to be that. And that was the main event. Also the Koloffs and the Rock and Roll Express. And a feature match was Jerry Lawler, Dusty Rhodes, and Magnum TA, Ole, Arn, and Tully. I don't think Lawler liked this match because I don't think Ole treated the King like the King. This is a bunk yard match, and I'm seeing if we have. Do we have the video there? We don't, do we? It went away. No, we have it. This is a bunkhouse match, and this is about 7 minutes highlights, and we'll take a look at that right now.
Well, it took place in Memphis, Tennessee, Mid-South Coliseum. The bunkhouse match, look out, no rules, just let it go, with Lawler, Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA against Ole and Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. Here they are in action.
Flair and Lawler, no video of that at all.
Memphis, Tennessee, we're underway. Ole It started with Dusty Rhodes going after Arn Anderson, Magnum TA going
Who's
after
the commentary?
Charlie Blanchard, and Jerry Lawler.
I don't talk long. Lance was doing the ring announcing, and they hit hot. And then, so I had to start.
Bunkhouse match, watch out.
Sound good.
Buckle your seatbelts, Lance. This will be a wild and woolly. Boy, you betcha. They didn't even wait for any announcements to be finished. They just started swinging. And I mean to tell you, it is nothing but non-stop mayhem as Dusty Rhodes drops that big elbow down on Tully Blanchard. Down he goes. Magnum TA takes a right forearm to the chin of Arn Anderson and decks him. Ole Anderson and Jerry.
My voice is weak, guys, so I'm going to step aside and let you guys handle whatever comments you'd like to add. Just pay attention to the comments if anybody has asked any questions.
A bunkhouse match extraordinary with 6 entirely violent citizens in that ring. And Lawler, Rhodes, and Magnum TA against Blanchard and the 2 Andersons. Out of the ring goes Arn Anderson. His big Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, drops down to the concrete to go get him. Magnum firing away on Ole. Lawler going after Tully Blanchard. The referee helpless with a kind of mayhem. Look at Ole. He throttles one on Lawler. Magnum comes over and pulls Tully away as it was going to be 2-on-1 as Dusty over there has busted open the head of Arn Anderson. Anderson back in the ring.
DJ, the reason there's none of them with the bunkhouse match, that's why nobody's dressed in wrestling costumes. Michael, do you see what I mean about Ole and Lawler?
Yeah, Ole's tying him up and just and not selling anything.
Magnum going after him, and Dusty decides to take
I would guess this is why, because of Ole, they never did it again. They never did a co-promotion again.
That shirt that Dusty has on says the American.
Well, what year was this? Was this after the Chattanooga
Yes.
test market?
Adventure.
Adventure, yeah.
The Chattanooga deal was in 1983, and this was in 1985.
85, okay. So this is after Ole was already pissed off about everything that had happened on the Chattanooga show.
This is November the 18th of 1985. The main event, Lawler and Coco.
Slams him across the back. He's lashing him with that big belt. Blanchard hands the belt over to Ole Anderson.
This match didn't do anything for Lawler.
By Arn Anderson. Dusty Rhodes back
Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. I'm not crazy about this kind of match anyway. It's too many people in the ring.
Shane's asking if I ever got caught up in the match and forgot about the commentating. To tell you the truth, no, Shane, I never did.
Magnum pitched out of the ring by Arn. And Ole Anderson nails Lawler in the back with that.
November the 18th, 1985.
There's a cover.
That's almost 40 years ago, isn't it?
Yep.
Knocks off. Tully Blanchard grabs Ole Anderson by the hair. Lawler's right shoulder is up. Dusty has the belt. He's after Tully.
Richard, the merger, it just didn't work in 84. Ole separated from Jim Barnett, and his crew wasn't good. It just didn't work. Yeah, Ole's not selling for Dusty either.
He ain't selling, period. He's just brawling.
Arn with the belt, digging into the Dreams face. Lawler hammered back into the corner by Ole Anderson as Tully Blanchard slams a right hand right in the throat of Magnum.
Talking Memphis Wrestling. Hey, everybody. Appreciate you watching. Have a treat for you today. We showed that 60-minute draw, and look at the talent Mike had in this match.
Something popped loose, a belt or something, but she looked like she was getting ready to hand something in the ring to Tully.
Is that Missy Hyatt on the outside?
Baby doll.
Baby doll, okay.
The biggest star job of Chronicles in Memphis, Tennessee, of those three baby faces, was Jerry Lawler in Memphis, Tennessee. No doubt about that. Now, that I want you to, in just a second, comment on that. Just real brief, both of you. We have two choices here. We have the Kennett, Missouri concession stand brawl that was certainly very interesting with the Moondogs and against Jerry Lawler, Robert Fuller, Jeff Jarrett. It was a wild brawl. Then the other option we have is and we have time for it, it's a 24-minute match with Coco Ware and Ric Flair, and from this same night with that bunkhouse match. So, guys, which match do you want to see?
I would like to see Coco and Ric Flair, because it would give us an opportunity to compare two world champions and their styles in matches in the same community.
How about you? You agree, Pat?
I agree with that. I'd like to see that too.
Next week, we'll show two things that I had scheduled for today. And one of them was that Kennett, Missouri brawl. The other one was Luna Vachon and Miss Texas from a TV match. So stay tuned for next week, and we'll find more good stuff, another load of Tech and Memphis Wrestling. And this is for the NWA World Title, certainly. Adam is saying next week USWA matches. Did I say you're going to have to help me that, Adam? I've had a brain fart, and I don't remember what that is, and we'll tell you in just a few minutes. Right now, we'll go to this card on November the 18th of 85. Bill Dundee's at ringside. Dusty's at ringside. This is for the world title match. Flair is good here, and if he'd never heard of Coco, but he found out what Coco Ware was, and we go to the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee right now. And it looks like we have no audio here, guys.
Boy, both of these guys look in great shape, though. Coco's in good shape. Flair looks like the Adonis in there. Now, is Dusty at ringside just to second Rick, or is he in just watching the match, or what's the stipulation with the extra wrestlers at ringside?
Because Bill Dundee came out because he was mad at Coco Ware for beating him on TV Saturday, and because Dundee was out there, Dusty came out, company versus company thing.
Gotcha.
To be in Flair's corner. Didn't make a lot of sense.
Well, again, here we are. The match starts out, and we get a little flurry, and now guess what the hole is? It's a side headlock. Is that Downtown Bruno, the referee?
No, I think that's a referee that Tom Renesto, when he was booking, brought in. His name was Jesse Allen. He wasn't here long.
No, I remember Jesse.
I learned my lesson, certainly, that I need to preview these. There was two on YouTube, two of the Flair Coco matches, and neither one of them said no audio on this. So we're just we'll have to do the commentary. Pat, you can join along.
Well, I think, like you say, Coco's man enough for anybody. And it looks like Flair he's giving him, a really good match here.
Again, the headlock is the predominant hold in, of course, this championship match. Looking at the two wrestlers, it's hard for me to believe that Flair looked that much bigger than Coco, because Coco had a good size on him even then. Of course, Coco was not a very tall wrestler, but he was very well built and could hold his own. But Flair looks just bigger.
Yes, I agree with that as well. And it's interesting the point that you wanted to compare before we ever push play, Michael, and see how compare it to the race Lawler, and a lot of headlocks here.
Again, very similar. And again, match time. How long did you say this match went? 24 minutes?
About 24 minutes, yes.
Gotcha. Well, it'll be a little bit more fast-paced. And, of course, we're seeing Coco go to the ropes, which he knew and did a lot of. Nice move. Good hip toss from the standing position. Snapmare. Coco could work. I sort of got the feeling after he got to the WWE that he became more of a gimmick wrestler because of the gimmick. Even though he could work, I always thought that he really worked his best work in the wrestling ring when he was in the Memphis territory.
He debuted in 1978. This was 1985, so that's 7 years. Al has a comment here, and he asked if I recall, I guess he's asking me because of the three of us, I was the only one in the building. Do we recall Coco's demeanor that night? Was he nervous on the big stage or eager to show? A little bit of both. He was nervous, never worked with Flair before. It was for the World Championship. It was his first single main event. So he was nervous, without a doubt. No doubt in the world, he was nervous. But he was fired up and ready to prove what he could do. And Flair, I like the world champion, even though he's a heel. Look at the exchanges of holds and the wrestling there. Don't you love that, guys?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things, too, and I think a point was made, these guys had never worked with each other. And so Flair is calling this match. And Coco is, from the first early going in this match, it looks like Coco is following the call very well, and what he's doing looks very, very good.
Pat?
Yeah, I just looking at them. Randy, how tall is Coco, roughly?
I'd say 5'7".
Yeah, I would say 5'8". And Rick's my height. Well, Rick is like 6'1", right in there.
I ran into Flair and Arn and Tully in the hotel bar in Philadelphia in 1988, and didn't really. I talked to Arn for a little bit because I went to school with a guy he went to high school with, and we visited. But Flair was kind of hanging around, but he was taller than I thought he would be.
And how many women were in the bar at the time?
It was early in the evening. They just came in and got started, and we left them with it. I'm sure that was part of the deal. They must have had an off night.
In 1986, Rick and I was at a convention in Atlanta for a Bobby Poe music convention, and a friend of mine was with me, and she was quite attractive, and we were staying at the Ramada Renaissance out by the airport, and that's where the convention was. Well, that night at about midnight, convention starting to wind down a little bit, and we go through the lobby headed toward the elevators, and lo and behold, I look over into the bar, and there's Flair with about 30 women all around the place buying drinks for everybody. So I said, what the heck? So I said, I'll introduce you to Flair. So I made the mistake of taking her in the bar and introducing her to Flair. And of course, Flair immediately hit on her. But he was one of these people that, and the word on him is he could wrestle like all get out, go 60, go just have a tremendous match and be hung over. and have a tremendous match. And to me, that's not only stamina, but that's a talent in and of itself.
Yeah.
Coco holding his own in this match is we see again a little bit different than what we saw with Race and Lawler, is that the challenger is really on top so far in this match the majority of the time. Now back to the headlock. But again, this match is going to go shorter, so you're going to see more action in it. There's Flair missed that one. Flair did not catch him coming off the ropes, so now he goes to the this is as much to recompose himself from missing the hold as anything, or missing the move as anything. Yeah, this was all called by Flair, by the way. Flair working the crowd, killing some time. Now, a little bit different. Another thing I'm noticing different in the way the ring is dressed for this match. Again, we have a ring apron and a skirt, and the canvas is 100% white. So again, this match is again being called by Flair. So a little bit time to recuperate, rethink the things, and before they lock up again.
You know, and in their defense, we're not listening to Lance call it, and the cameras from a good bit away, although it pops back in there. But boy, this is not 1/10 of the match that Harley and Lawler was.
I agree, Pat. Also, this is a 2-camera shot. You got a floor camera and you've got a fixed position camera, and they're cutting back and forth between the two, which gives another feel for the match than what the Flair match the Race match with Lawler was a 1-camera shot.
Yeah.
I don't think this referee can hold a candle to Tommy Marlin in a match like this either. That's a good Jobber just made the comment. Was Flair considered generous with his opponents? I feel like he is selling 90% of every match I see. That's Ric Flair. I mean, that's even to the time that they did his farewell match a couple of years ago or last year or whatever the case may be. That was typical Ric Flair. And that's what he did. And that made him a successful champion because, again, when you go into a territory, you go into a town, you go into an area, it's to put their number one guy over. And Flair was excellent at doing that. See, again, different theatrics with Flair and the referees encounter. You never saw that with Tommy Marlin as the quote-unquote NWA official in the match.
Randy West was upstairs with the hard camera, and Ken Parnell from TV5. He mainly was in E&G, in engineering, and later became a producer of the television show. Basically, Jerry Jarrett would rather stay downstairs than upstairs, and so Ken, who worked for the TV station, would help out the director and be in the producer's spot there. And this is a good match, but no way compares to Harley Race and Lawler, in my opinion.
No, I agree, Randy, 100%.
13 minutes left.
One of the other things I'm noticing just by the people at ringside in this match is there was more momentum with the crowd with the Lawler Flair match, and right now they're sort of sitting on their hands.
Yeah.
Nothing against Coco, because I love Coco, but Jerry Lawler was more over than Coco. That was the difference, I think. Wouldn't you think?
Oh, absolutely. But I agree with you. Coco could work. And like I said, I thought he did his best work in the Memphis territory before he ever went to New York. because once he went to New York, he became, and I hate to say this, but he became a cartoon character. And that was great for Coco's future and pocketbook and all that good stuff. But as far as the wrestling prowess, Coco became, he fell into he fell into that WWE handful of wrestlers that they had at the time that were characters. Duggan was a character, Slaughter was a character, Coco was a character. They weren't, Hulk was on top and he was a character too. But that was a time where all of the wrestlers were quote unquote characters and not, if you would, pure wrestlers.
Sports entertainers, if you will.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Frank says that Coco had the best standing drop kick in wrestling, certainly one of the very best. Jeff Jarrett had a great one as well. Ricky Steamboat had a great drop kick. Okada from AEW has a great drop kick as well.
I agree with that. A drop kick, to me, of all the moves in wrestling, a drop kick executed well is probably the best maneuver off the feet that a wrestler can do. I'll tell you who had a drop kick that never gets credit for it was Fargo. Jackie Fargo could come out of nowhere with that drop kick.
Absolutely.
Again, this is typical Flair, in the corner. There was more, in my opinion, in Flair's, when he would defend his title, there was more, if you would, cheating or taking advantage of the rules that Flair used than Harley ever used. And I think he compares more to, in my opinion, a Terry Funk in that regards versus a Briscoe or a Funk or Dory Jr. or Kiniski or even Harley.
I always felt like there was a smidge of, excuse my terminology, chicken shit heel in Flair. And I never felt that way with Harley and the Briscoes or Terry or Dory.
Less than 10 minutes left in this clip.
I always thought that Flair was a better promo than he was a wrestler.
Yes, I agree with that. And Coco is doing great in this match.
Oh, I agree. And Coco, I think this, after this match is over, I think Coco's where he was in the pecking order of being over in Memphis is, I think this took him up several notches. One of the best matches, and I've only seen it one time, I did see it live when they had it on TV, is there was a TV championship match back in the late 80s between Bobby Eaton and Ric Flair. And I think that is, you wanted some textbook stuff. That was some textbook stuff.
Yes, I've seen that, and that is fantastic.
Again, Flair going shortcutting out of the corner, put a knee up. I mean, there's those little shortcut kind of things that Flair did and does in his title defenses that Harley would not be doing. False finish coming.
Adam, let's go full screen on the match, on the last couple of minutes of the match.
Flair's selling well here.
Yeah, absolutely. Flair loved this match, and he loved Coco, and so all the heat going into the match was over with. He basically thought they were putting in a ringer against him, and certainly, and I understand Bill did as a heel didn't want to work with Flair. That would split the audience. Plus, we needed Flair over in this situation. It wouldn't hurt Coco. It would hurt Bill.
Good philosophy there.
Your
At
analogy.
what point was that decision made, Randy?
Thursday or Friday before the TV Saturday. And Flair or Crockett was not, as I said earlier, not notified of that. And they probably should have let Flair know who he was wrestling, wouldn't you think?
I would think. What was, and I never heard Jerry talk a lot. I heard Jerry talk a lot about Andy Graham. I don't know, he talked a lot about Jim Barnett. What was Jerry's relationship with Crockett after this? I mean, was this a situation where it was beneficial to both companies? It was not helpful to both companies? Was it a trial that just didn't go anywhere past the trial basis? Is this Chattanooga version 2.0? I never heard Jerry Jarrett talk a lot, in fact, if anything, about Jim Crockett.
He didn't like the fact that Flair's attitude, even though he liked the match, he didn't like how Ole treated Lawler. And then Jim Crockett called and wanted to run a bash or a Starcade or something, and that's a good move right there, at the Liberty Bowl, and they were going to be both 50-50 in partners of the thing or in financial risk, and so Jarrett backed out of the deal right there, and so Crockett ran a show at Liberty Land, and at the same time we ran a free show at the Mid-South Coliseum, and so Crockett at that point hated Jarrett, and they hated Lawler at that point too.
Okay, so there was a rift there, because I just never, in all the time I spent with Jerry, I never heard him speak of Crockett, but he would speak glowingly of Jim Barnett, who a lot of people just did not like for whatever reason, but he liked Jim Barnett, and he also liked, of course, Eddie Graham. I know he used to do an impression of Barnett, that Barnett would get the rat reports, and to hear Jerry Jarrett tell and mock Jim Barnett getting the quote unquote rat reports was hilarious. One of the funniest things I ever saw Jerry Jarrett do.
Yeah, I've heard him do that too, and it was funny. As we have 4 minutes and 35 seconds left in this clip right now for the NWA World Championship, November the 18th, 1985, Ric Flair and Coco Ware, and we won't have much time left in the show. We'll recap.
That's a great move.
Yes, a black slide, a great move.
Yeah, pardon me.
That backslide. I'm a little confused on something, and I'm watching, and of course, coming up tonight on we didn't talk a whole lot about the Vice show that's coming up, part 2 of Who Killed the WCW, but Jim Herd and Jim Barnett, and then Ole was in the mix. Flair was booking. What was that sort of an unholy alliance, or was Herd there before Barnett, or vice versa? And then where did Paul Jones fit into that picture in Atlanta wrestling?
Paul Jones was an ex-wrestler, and he was promoter, not in ownership. He was promoter, maybe back in the old days before Barnett bought it. He did. That kind of thing is confusing. And now, as Flair looked like he was going to grab the ropes, and Coco battles, you want your baby faces battle, and he did that for sure. And battled, and the people are into the final minutes of the match, Michael.
They are, and Flair is. This is typical Flair. This is what you see out of Flair. What you see is what you get, and of course he misses and here goes Coco is going to reverse it on Flair and go for his figure 4 on Flair, and Dusty is outside, and the people right now again. Here's Flair caught, and you think the championship could be at risk. But again, the people, you don't see people going crazy. They're just sitting there watching. And again, what we saw at ringside during the Flair, against the Race and Lawler match was not that. The people at ringside were not this calm.
I think the difference is that the people really thought Lawler had a chance to win the title. I think the people did not think that with Coco.
Good point. Flair breaking the hole.
Yeah, that's a typical Flair move. Use the rope for leverage.
Exactly. Coco, sensing that Flair is hurt, goes back after him. Now Flair will, if it's typical Flair, Flair's going to do something here to turn the tide. Coco going in with the chops. Coco throws a right hand like Lawler. I didn't realize how similar their right hands are.
Yes.
And I'm sure Coco probably learned it from Lawler. There's your standing drop kick.
That is something to see, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Another thing, another beautiful drop kick. Another thing, Michael, this followed as Dundee attacks Dusty Rhodes there. The people were kind of let down that Lawler was treated like he was treated in that match. That you have to think about that. That drained the air out of the building, and here's the finish.
Yep. And again, here's a situation where he hooks the leg, he pulls it off, Dundee's in, and of course, like you said, Dundee already pissed off that that Coco stole his opportunity, and now this sets up Dundee and Coco for a program henceforth.
And Flair, as the world champion, he is going, and here comes Dusty in to save Coco and body slams Flair. Flair takes that bump good.
And now look at your crowd. Your crowd is popped because of Dundee being in the ring and Dusty being in the ring. So really, the afterbirth superseded what you saw for the match. Even though it was a good match, it wasn't a great match, but people didn't get into it until at the very end when everybody popped when the afterbirth of the match.
Recap that for us, Pat.
Well, I mean, the thing, and I don't want to run down Flair, but I mean, I made the comment earlier that Harley could have a good match with a chair, and Flair was going to wrestle his match. And Coco carried him a good bit, and it was a pretty decent match, but it wasn't. That first match was incredible.
Incredible. Real quick, Michael, because I want to do one final subject. So real quick.
I'm just going to agree with Pat said because he hit all the right points on that one. Absolutely, Pat. You're right on target.
Michael St. John brought up our next subject, and I had written into the show. So I want you, Adam, to go to the graphics and put the WCW graphic. And hopefully, Al, you can send me, and I shared last week's Who Killed WCW, and if we can keep that up there for just a minute, as it will be on tonight, part 2 of a 4-part series produced by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's production company. Pat, did you get a chance to watch last week's Who Killed WCW? And what did you?
I was not able to watch it. I started watching what you posted, but got tied up, so I can't help us here.
How about you, Michael?
Watched the whole thing live. Saw it again this afternoon while I was eating lunch. It's either this show is going to put some shine on Bischoff, or it's going to crucify him. To me, just the way it's going, it looks like that the whole thing is to bring out points that we supposedly don't know. But the fact of the matter is, and I wonder if it's going to come out, that one of the reasons WCW died was blatant drug use by everybody. And I think at the end, it was a telltale that, and when Vince took over, he weeded out the bad seed, if you would. And I think that'll be brought out. But if it's not, I'll be very, very shocked that it wouldn't be.
Pat, who do you think killed WCW real quick?
Bischoff.
Pat or Michael?
I think it was a combination of things. I think they're trying to show that upper management didn't really want it, but they needed it for programming. It was cheap programming. I think it was the boys. I think it was the egos and the boys that were just, nobody could control anybody.
I think it was upper management with Turner and the merger. And then number two, I think it's the boys. Then upper level wrestling management like a Vince Russo and creative and Eric Bischoff. I think they have to be. I think that's the top three in my mind. As we come toward the end of the show, we'll go a couple over because it's 8:00 now. Pat, your final take about today's show.
My final take is, as long as you love this sport, and I will call it a sport that we love, the great thing for me, about what we do here and the work that Adam does and that you do each and every week is I get to have the best seat in the house to learn something, and I saw probably the best match I've seen in my 61 years today. And that's my final take.
Final take from our main expert around here is Michael St. John.
Stop it. Hey, Pat, you did a great job. I really appreciate you from the side of the fence that you're coming and watching this thing. It gives everybody a new perspective, including me, and I really appreciate that. But one of the things I think is that you tested the water on something, and I hope people enjoyed it as much as the panel did, because I can tell you, I thought it was a home run and a half. So let's continue to do what we got to do. But this was a good idea, and I appreciate your opportunity to give me the opportunity to be here.
It was great. Appreciate you guys. I thought Chris was going to join about 7:30. He did not, so he's missed two after making 4 in a row. He's missed 2 in a row, and he's missed 2 great shows. We'll see you here next Tuesday. And, of course, on Monday, we will have the Power Pro Watch Along. Our best numbers for that show happened yesterday. So I want to ask our Team Hell's members, our viewers here on this show, to help us out, because in the YouTube and in Twitter and in Facebook, everywhere, every platform we're on in the archives. So if everybody could share this show as soon as we go off the air, I would appreciate it very much, because I want as many people as possible to watch this sucker. And we had great numbers, and we have the more people watching right now than we have any time in the show. And so, Michael, what do you say? My idea that I was really about to put a 1 hour time for the draw to start this show, that worked out, would you say?
Home run.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks for Adam Dunn producing, Randy West for producing at home, Pat Trammell and Michael St. John. This is Randy Hells. Good night, everybody. And we out of here.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hill and special guest